Panamanian army. And when the head of that army, Manuel Noriega, became a murderer and drug profiteer, the newspaper turned on him too. He promptly shut it down. That was years ago. Now there's a new government. Its members better be honest, democratic, and hardworking, or they will soon be reading about themselves on the editorial page of that newspaper. There is one bit of good news for the people of Panama. La Prensa is back on the streets. Jacqueline Adams reports our Sunday morning cover story.
Cars agent 2407, please. Cars agent 2407.
It was a joyous reunion at the Miami International Airport. With Manuel Noriega out of Panama, publishers Roberto and Maruja Eisenman and other exiled newspapermen were finally heading home.
There's only one home, and Panama is my home. Though I might seem quite bicultural, when you're living in exile, you're living for the return and nothing more. So we've been living the last 4 years for this moment.
The American military strike freed the exiles to board a plane back to Panama to rebuild the careers Noriega couldn't snuff out. First up, the La Prensa offices, which Noriega occupied, then shut down.
The team is back together again. There's a beautiful missionary spirit in that newspaper. Everybody's back there working again.
For years, the Eisenmans and their star columnist Guillermo Sanchez used the pages of La Prensa to wage a bitter campaign against Manuel Noriega. The Panamanian government forced Eisenman into exile in 1986, blaming him for American press reports about widespread drug dealing by Noriega. For Sanchez, after embarrassing the dictator with reports on the murder of an opposition leader, it was a choice of prison or flight.
So I went to the papal embassy, Nunciatura. I inaugurated that place as asylum heaven. I was the first. And I think it's very ironic and also a certain poetic justice in the fact that I was the first and Noriega was the last.
Hicieron que el silencio de la prensa fuera un grito que se conociera en el mundo entero.
You made the silence of La Prensa a cry heard around the world, Eisenman told his staff.
Y todos sabemos que el interés de un ministro, el interés de un gobernante, es que se conozca su punto de vista. El interés nuestro como periodistas independientes. What I was telling them is, now people will realize what real independence means, because as an independent media organization, we will have to be critical of our friends.
Like most other Panamanians, the Eisenmans first faced the task of sweeping up the physical damage Noriega's henchmen left behind.
We have a lot of destruction. We're trying to put these machines together as soon as we can.
The total damage caused not only by Noriega, but also the Americans is daunting. In the 2 years since the U.S. imposed economic sanctions against Panama, the economy has gone into a tailspin. The foreign debt is $4 billion, one of the highest per capita in the world.
The invasion alone cost close to $1 billion in property damage and looting. And with a quarter of the population out of work, demonstrators are already asking the new government for more jobs.
We're going to have to work like hell and work to recreate our country.
Vice President Ricardo Arias Calderon doesn't think the Panamanians should have to repair the damage all alone.
We need a lot of help, and I think there is a deep moral commitment and duty of the U.S. to help us. We have now something, a common bond that is sacred. Panamanians have died for the freedom of Panama, and U.S. citizens have died for the freedom of Panama.
Don't load till you identify!
The shooting wasn't over yet. As editors laid out their first edition, American GIs standing guard at the La Prensa office went into action after reports of a gunman on the loose a few yards away. Despite the danger and uncertainty, home is still preferable to exile.
Exile is being uprooted. It's like a root with no earth to it. You sort of dry up and are in the process of dying constantly. You live for the return.
Nonetheless, Eisenman was ambivalent about the U.S. military intervention.
I must be feeling the way a person feels that just wakes up from radical cancer surgery, and the surgeon says, you know, you lost a leg, you lost an arm, but you're alive, and you've got a new lease on life.
Everywhere they went last week, even in church, Roberto and Maruja Eisenman were greeted like heroes.
And it's so beautiful when you walk in a place and you can greet people by name and know who they are and what they are, and the same with you.
For all the euphoria, though, the job comes first: to keep the new government honest and committed to the principles they all spent the last 21 years fighting for.
I hope that there's no temptations out there on the part of U.S. government officials or Panamanian officials of recreating an army that we don't need and we can't afford. Hopefully we'll follow the Costa Rican model and have a civilian police force and nothing more, which is all we need.
This year in Jerusalem.
Vice President Arias Calderon, who is also the new Minister of Justice, wears yet another hat. He's a shareholder in the newspaper.
We're going to build ourselves a democracy. We have to learn to live in democracy. We'll make mistakes, and La Prensa and other newspapers will criticize us, but that's the name of the game in a democracy. And we're going to build ourselves a public force that will be quite different from Noriega's army.
For their first issue, the Eisenmans looked into Noriega regime corruption at the largest hospital in Panama City. Medicine, this nurse told them, was regularly seized by the military, so the patients had to suffer without it. After a night of fits and starts with presses unaccustomed to rolling, La Prensa shouted once again.
It's a dawn. The night is over. We know that the day is going to be a hard day's work is ahead of us, but it's in the open air and under the light, and that's new for us.
There is an enormous, a gigantic reconstruction in this country. And sometimes you wonder if you have the capability of doing it. But when you have liberty, when you have hope, everything is possible. So I'm sure that we will succeed, and we'll succeed earlier than most people think we will.
Sí.